Welcome Strategy Battle Gamers to another GBHL YouTube channel video. You are here with your channel host GBHL James, and today we're going to be bringing you a little bit of an army showcase. Now, last time that we did one of these, we were showing off Jay Finnegan's High Elves that have been beautifully painted by Yggdrasil Painting Studios, which is our good friend Murtal, or James Baldwin for those of you that are on the tournament scene. And it was fantastic to have a little bit of a chat through with Jay and see what he thought about the army, what his thinkings were, how he used them in the past, and how he was planning on using them in the future, as well as, of course, show off some beautiful models. So because that was actually an incredibly popular video and it got a huge number of views for the type of content that it was, that's encouraged me to do a little bit of that with some of the armies that we've got. So look forward to in the future maybe a Rohan one from me, a Grey Company one, an Isengard one in the future as well, and maybe even looking at the Fellowship and some of those painted models. But today we are going to be looking at my Wanderers in the Wild army. Okay, so what we're going to start off with is the first model that I picked up. So if we just come in a little bit here, I'll have to learn to use the zoom. And the first model that I got was that plastic eagle in the background there. So I remember getting this model. I loved the plastic eagle kits when they came through, and I actually picked this up off, I think it was off eBay. And as you can see, it's probably one of the earlier models that I painted and put together. You can see that when I put it together that there were a couple of gaps which I didn't fill in around the wing and slightly on the back of the head, if you can see that there. But this guy, he was fun to paint, I have to say, and very, very easy. So if we bring him over here, you'll be able to see his wings, and he was very easily painted just with a dry brush, really, because I love the models, and I was really pleased with the effect that I was able to create on the eagle. And of course I based it the way that I have ended up basing a lot of my models. So I did like this eagle, and the whole idea originally of getting the eagle was to complement my Rohan army, because of the speed, of course, that the eagles can show, and I was going to try and get Radagast in there because, of course, you know, he's got his Renew, and he's got his Panic Steed, and a few things that could help Rohan, really. And the idea was it was a very easy way of taking my 500 point Rohan up to 750 points, but kind of abandoned that plan and actually decided to go for a little bit of a full eagle force, which I'll show you in a little while. So that was my first ever eagle, painted by simply dry brushing. We had basically a dark brown, then a light brown, and then of course the Ashabti bone to finish off that effect on there, and turned out quite nice, I thought. So buoyed on by the experience of painting that eagle, which I have to say in early days I used as Guar, and in my experience of Guar, he's not really good enough, only having 2 attacks, the fact that he's not a form of monstrous cavalry at all, the fact that he has only got 1 might, that's not particularly great. If he had a few more might, he would be a bit better, but the lack of fate as well can also be a bit of a problem. He's always let me down, really, Guar. He's always let me down, but I used to use him as Guar to get him into forces. So the next model that I actually managed to get hold of was this guy over here, and that is Treebeard. So Treebeard is an absolute beast. He is an absolute beast, but you are paying the points for him. So there's a lot that he can do. He's one of the strongest characters in the game, I would say. You know, if you look at him from literally just a stat for stat point of view. And I painted him buoyed on by the success that I'd had with painting the eagle, and simply dry brushed him. He is dry brushed, and I was very, very, very pleased with the outcome. Based him exactly the same, and I have enjoyed using him when I use him. So there are a couple of battle reports. I do want to use him a little bit more. There are a couple of battle reports back there when we did some scenarios. Now he is a bit of a tank, but the issue is he's such a big point sink. As soon as his might goes down and he's not rolling a 6, he can be in a lot of trouble, especially with the emergence of piercing strike. You know, he can go down reasonably easy. So that is Treebeard. Now, very, very kindly, our channel sponsors decided to send me, Dave Fredericks in particular, who's UK Freddy Bear of Shadow and Flame, decided to send me those guys in the background. You may have seen these before. but they are the tree giants that look very similar to some of the Ents from the movies. So we've got the birch tree giant, and we've got the willow tree giant. It's really interesting when people look at these two. It's always a complete split opinion of what people prefer. I really do like the birch tree giant, but a lot of people prefer the willow tree giant. Now, Ents are pretty expensive. They're 110 points, but they are pretty good. The issue maybe is a lack of speed, and again, like most big things, if evil can manage to transfix it, surround it, trap it, if they're not rolling that 6 or they're being heroic struck against, then they can go down reasonably easy. But I would like to do a few more battle reports using some of these tree giants and Ents, because it is good fun. So expect to see some of those in the future. So as you can see, if we go in and have a little bit of a closer look, they are gorgeous models, and you can tell straight away that these guys haven't just been dry brushed like my Treebeard character. So lots and lots of detail in there, absolutely gorgeous, and a wonderful present from the guys over at Shadow and Flame for me, which I really liked. So then my next step really was I wanted to actually get a couple more of the eagle models, which I picked up over here, and Guar here. Now I'll go on to Guar here next, because Guar here is my least favourite of all of the eagles in terms of the pose, and also for putting together. He was papery thin in various points of the model. You know, you could see through bits of it. He didn't fit together as well, and the pose just isn't as dynamic. Maybe if you'd been a bit bigger, that would have been good. But the plastic eagles are so good, there's part of you that thinks, you know, well, why would you even bother with the resin version? Now, I haven't actually finished painting this guy because I was experimenting with my new eagles, and I was experimenting to see what paint schemes I would prefer. So I painted these guys all at the same time. So if I bring them through, so let's talk you through it. So this guy, I wanted him to be sort of lighter browns, a lighter brown head, but not particularly white. I would say that I've not finished him. He needs kind of like a bit of a final highlight, and something that I wasn't particularly chuffed of was he did get a bit of a shine from the inks, and I have learned since that you should really give those ink washes a good shake before you use them. But if you have a little bit of a look, he's got a bit of a nice wet blend in there. He just needs those final finishing highlights really. And then we've also got this eagle here. Now this eagle here is probably my favourite paint scheme. And one of my things with painting these eagles, I did these just before I got ill and painted the 3 hunters, was I didn't just dry brush them. I started to use wet blending techniques. And although they've not turned out as amazing as some other people's eagles, I was very pleased with the results and how they ended up looking. Again, some of the issues with these bigger models is you can end up with gaps, but you could use a bit of liquid green stuff if you're a little bit less lazy than I was to get that fixed. I tried to put them on a little bit of a different angle as well. Again, the issue with the eagles is only having 2 attacks. Although they're the high fight value, it really does make them vulnerable. So with this one, I definitely went for that kind of American eagle kind of look, going for the white head, the white tails, and the white feathers, which of course I used the sharpty bone so that it looks a little bit more realistic. And I was pretty pleased with how this guy turned out. I have to say, it was probably what I thought was one of my best painted miniatures before I started doing the 3 hunters, which is where I took the painting to a next level. And then finally we had this guy here. Okay, so this guy was a bit darker, a bit more of an aggressive pose, so I thought I'd have him posturing up. He's swooping down, he's got his claws ready there. And this is probably the best of the 3 from the wet blending point of view on the brown. And it was doing that wet blending on the brown on this model that made me think, right, okay, I've nailed browns. Browns on any model now should be good. So if you see there some of the detail, I was very pleased. And that was a reasonably slow highlight as well. I took my time with that. Blacks, much harder. Much harder to do. Going up through the grey there, but I feel like I just about managed it. Now, one thing that I did experiment on this guy, because he did have a bit more of an aggressive pose, was I used one of the technical paints, which was the blood paint. Now, I know that's something that DMS and which is Kev Deadmar Spectre of Shadow and Flame and Dave Fredericks do. Sometimes they use some of the UHU glue. can't remember, and they'll put that on, they'll mix it with some of this gory stuff and have it dripping, so you've effectively got gore. That would have been the next step really. But I actually like the way that this worked out. It wasn't over the top, it's pretty subtle, it looks a bit grim, but at the same time, you know, it looks quite cool. So those are my eagles all together. I have used a bit of an eagle army in the past. I didn't enjoy using it as much as the Rohan, but it is good fun. You just can't rely on those 2 attacks. So although you've got all the brutal power attacks to choose from, which are good, you've got the high fight value, the wounds, the defense, it can be a tough list to run. Now something that could make that a little bit more viable is the inclusion of this guy, and let's get a good zoom in on him, because this is the latest model to come from Shadow and Flame, which I've shown off before. It is a mounted Radagast conversion. The only reason you've not seen this guy in a battle report yet is simply because I don't have the foot version, which DMS still has, and I'm not sure he's finished that. So this was converted by Dave Fredericks and then painted up at the second Stockport event, or DOS 2, and as you can see, this guy is stunning. Now Radagast, he's got the same wizard profile as the other wizards, but he's got a couple of cool special rules. The Master of Birds in particular is pretty good. He counts as having an elven cloak, so when he's on foot it's a good idea to sort of keep him hidden because other people can't see him, or keep him in cover, out of the way, and then he is always presumed to have line of sight. Now one of the reasons why he can work quite well with some of these big Wanderers of the Wild style monsters is because these have got multiple wounds. There we go, because they've got multiple wounds. Let's have a little look at them. If they do take wounds, then he can renew them, of course. And he's also got a couple of other good spells. He's got Panic Steed, which is okay, Terrifying Aura, I believe. But what I'm really excited about is he is going to have a new option soon, which should bring something completely new to the table for good armies. But before we do that, we've got him mounted on a horse here, looking pretty beautiful, I have to say. I love this model and I cannot wait to use it in some way, shape or form, whether part of a Wanderers Wild list or trying to get him in with the Rohan somewhere, or even, you know, with the All Hero maybe. I also have Radagast on Slay, which you would have seen us unbox once upon a time. I think we unboxed that at the first Stockport event, and that Radagast on Slay went to Dave Fredericks, because I know that it's a bit of a nightmare to put together, and he's been working on that. I am very much looking forward to receiving that Radagast on Slay, because all of a sudden something which is definitely more of a support wizard becomes an offensive wizard, because he gets, you know, five or six attacks, I believe. I think he's 4 attacks, 5 on the charge, and then you've got Sebastian as well. So you're rolling a lot of dice, The problem, of course, being that of course he's only fight value 5, but you are rolling a lot of dice. We have seen a few of them around. It is expensive to take the Slay, but it's good fun. It's good fun, and I played against it a couple of times, have managed to take it down. Piercing Strike very much helps, surrounding it, trapping it. It's got a very weird shaped base, which I'm sure you've all seen, which does make it reasonably easy to trap and hard to maneuver on the battlefield, but cool nonetheless. Now something I was about to mention is that Radagast is about to have a new bit of gear, or he does have a new bit of gear. Radagast is going to be able to be mounted on an eagle and become good monstrous cavalry with a high fight value and with knockdown. That is going to be very, very interesting. Hopefully there'll be a model for that, but I have seen some cool conversions out there, so keep an eye out for those. In the meantime, when I do get my Radagast on foot from Shadow and Flame, expect to see a little bit more of this force in action. I also have in a box, which you've all seen before, I also have Bayon, which everybody voted for me to paint as the next project. When I first put the vote out there, which I never got round to doing. So I will be doing that soon. So Bayon, but again, he suffers from the fact that as a leader, it's a lot of points. It's a lot of points for something which is, once he's run out of might, he's going to go down reasonably quickly. Will he make his points back? Well, to do that, he's going to have to kill a hero, and that's going to be pretty tough with heroic strike while they have got might. So that's my Wanderers in the Wild Force, guys. I hope you enjoyed having a little bit of a look at that, taking a look at some of the paint jobs, some of the reasons why we got them, where they came from, how they can work together, a very short sort of description of some of their stats. So I do hope you enjoyed that video. So next army showcase that I'll probably be doing will be my Grey Company, the first army that I collected. So make sure as always, guys, that you comment, like, share and subscribe in order to support our channel. You can support your Hobbit hobby by following us on Facebook and on Twitter and getting involved in all of the conversations that we have. And as always, guys, happy strategy battle gaming.